So this is the second Talkz Cheap podcast episode right here.
Yes,
we
sir.
We're gonna do an interview with the big dog DEA, you know what I mean, this time.
You already know.
All right, man. So basically, you know what I mean, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, which decade do you love the most and why?
Oh, dang. So we got like a little icebreaker for this one. Okay, so that was the 60s, 70s, 80s,
And
or 90s.
Yep.
I would say, dang, that's a tough one, right? Because in the 70s, right, you have us like the bell bottoms, it's all funkadelic. And then the 80s, just the vibe in the 80s, like you can't recreate that nowadays. You try to imitate it, but you can't duplicate it, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And then the 90s got a little bit weird as far as like the styles with the fluorescent and everything, but in the baggy pants, like the MC Hammer Vanilla Ice style. But I'll go with the 90s because that was my childhood growing up. That's where a lot of my formative years were. So I'll rock with the 90s for sure. A lot of good times back then.
No doubt. 90s were awesome, man. So from the top, man, so early life, like DEA early life, bro. Where were you born? You know what I mean? And I know you moved around a lot in the Bay, you know what I mean? But where did it start? You know what I mean?
So I guess we'll start from back in the day. Like, so originally Southern California. And back then I was living in Norwalk and Long Beach pretty much throughout my elementary years. And as far as growing up back then, was pretty much heavily into wrestling, WWF, and I think just riding bikes, just normal kid stuff, just riding around a lot. And then from there, moved to Northern California around my high school days, and that's where I moved to San Jose. And then around that time, started getting into skateboarding and transitioned from skateboarding into graffiti, and then moved to the 831 to Prunedale. And that's where still I was doing a little bit of skating, a little bit of graffiti at that time. But at some point that transitioned into rapping. And then from there, it pretty much got all into rapping. So it was kind of a evolution from just growing up riding my bike, and then went to skateboarding, went to graffiti, and then went to rapping, and then making beats and producing, engineering, that stuff, to now, I guess, doing podcasts with you, right?
Gotcha. The full circle, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And when it comes to you said that, you got into music and everything like that, it kind of was inspired, it was a big part, with the skateboarding and the tagging and whatnot. So, a lot of the 4 elements there, everybody, if you guys know what those are. But yeah, so when it came to making music, could you shed a little bit of light on like when you started to either rap or produce, or what came first?
Yeah, so definitely started with the rapping. But as far as like the evolution, to get a little bit into that. So growing up, I always listened to whatever was on the radio. So in Southern California, I used to play a lot of like Zapp and Roger and Rodney O, Joe Cooley, like that kind of rap. And then as I got older and started skating, I started listening like even like rock and roll and punk, a lot of punk rock music. And when I moved to San Jose, a lot of my friends were into hip hop, like De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest. And so at that time, I remember I would just be with my headphones. I had a little Walkman, and I would just be riding around skateboarding from point A to point B with my headphones on. A lot of times bumping like Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, and I would just sing along with the raps. And at some point started just kicking little freestyles, nothing serious, just like joking around with friends or just kicking it when we're skateboarding, just making up little raps, but not even being like, look at me, I'm a rapper or anything like that. And at some point that kind of evolved into my friends started to listen to like Tupac and Biggie. And so started listening to that and like Master P. And so once we moved from San Jose to Prunedale, I was going to high school, and at that time there was a couple of people that were doing music at the high school that I was going to at the time. So that's the first time that I ever really seen anybody that was actually doing their own music like that, because up until then, everything that I listened to is like, they used to have this catalog back in the days where you could order like 7 or 8 CDs for like a penny, something stupid like that, some subscription deal. And I ended up, that's how I would get my music back in the days.
Like a magazine magazine subscription deal or what?
Something like it. I always
Yeah,
thought
I
it was
got
like a
you.
little scam, but I
Got
actually
you.
ended up getting like 8 CDs from this thing and
That's
for
dope as
like
fuck.
pennies. Yeah, but besides that, you have people that have the CD, so you borrow a CD or trade CDs or even on a cassette tape, you'd record the CD or make a copy on a cassette. And and also we had the record stores back then, so occasionally you stop in the record store, but anyway, so at that time in high school, that was the first time that I was exposed to people that are actually making music. And during I think it was my sophomore year or junior year, there's this dude named Joe. He moved to the area from out of the area, and when he moved there, he was DJing, so he had a turntable, he had some tape decks, a microphone, and a mixer all set up. I'm not sure if he was really doing rap himself at that time, but what we would do is we would go over to his house, and then we would put on instrumentals of like E40, Doobie, whoever was popular at the time. I think Selly Cell too, like It's Going Down Tonight, like that beat. And so he would put on those beats, we would freestyle over it and record it on a cassette. And then from there, it kind of evolved to us getting a little keyboard and making beats, doing the same
Gotcha.
process, but not just doing one take, but doing it, doing doubles over it. And back then, the crazy thing is we didn't have that technology we do today. So the main difference is the sound quality wasn't as good. But the other thing is we would have to do one take all the way through. And so you actually had to know how to rap back then, I would say, like compared to nowadays, like how we've talked about how I'm able to just punch in a whole verse and not really have to worry about, if I mess up
Breath
during a verse
control
or
or
whatnot.
whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, well, that's pretty dope, man. I like hearing the history. I like hearing the history. All right, man. I'm gonna get into a few projects now that we, kind of touch base on, the background of everything, how you kind of evolutionized into who you are today. All right, the first off, I gotta say, I'm doing this interview as a collaborator, but also as a fucking fan. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, when it comes to West Coast Volume 2, bro, could you
Yeah.
just shed some light on the background of that one a little bit? Because, that's a classic DEA album that hit the Central Coast pretty damn hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So at the time, I think I was back then just out of high school maybe. And so I started recording on a computer back then. So I was one of the first cats from out there that started using a computer to record music. And so what I would do is I would use Fruity Loops to make the drum beats. And then I had a little chord keyboard with a bunch of sounds on it and just play chords and melodies over the drum beats that I made in Fruity Loops. Then I
Crazy.
would put those in. I forgot which app I would use back then. I want to say it was like Digital Orchestrator Pro or maybe Cubase, some old school app. It was pretty old. Nothing that I would use today. But
Cubase.
yeah, well, Cubase is still relevant, but Digital Orchestrator Pro is like ancient. But so I'll make the beats, I'll pull them over into that app, and then I just started making songs. And as far as my creative process, it wasn't too extravagant. It was just kind of like, I'd write a verse, record it, and then I would burn it onto a CD. And then with that, I would go to work and share it with my coworkers. And then back then in Salinas, like we were talking, they have cruising back then where people would just go on their lowriders or, people have the airbags on their truck or whatever, their whips, racing cars back then. And down North Main, people would just go in a circle all the way down, back and forth from like pretty much Friday through Sunday from I'll say maybe like 8 o'clock to like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, basically. And so we'd be out there with our friends. You'd run into everybody. Everybody's out there. So back then I would just burn a bunch of CDs and then I'll hand them out or try to sell them for $5. I'll go up to random people. But what I found is that over time I compiled about, I think, 10 or 12, 15 songs. And I would just, I didn't really have like, oh, this is an actual CD. It was just a burnt copy. So I would just write DEA and then I would write West Coast on there. And
Gotcha.
so,
Crazy.
yeah, so back then, that's all it was is, I would just give out these CDs. And what ended up happening is I gave it out to so many people and so many people had it that it was to a point where we'd be cruising out there and then we just hear the car next to us be slapping it. Everybody had slap back then. So, and that whole CD has a lot of bass on it. The way I mix it, I used to have subs back then, so I mixed it all bass heavy. So back then when I was out there cruising, with the homies. You know, I just be driving by and you hear the car next to you slapping that. And so you running into people, you rolling with the homies and everybody's bumping it. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
based on that is kind of how it became something bigger than just being, you know, sitting on my computer at home. So to be able to get out there and be part of that scene is really what I think helped drive the success of that album back then.
Yeah, I gotta see the crazy thing about that is I think I told DEA directly is that I heard that song DEA, the DEA song, which is pretty humongous out in Salinas and in San Jose, and from my older sister. She showed it to me and it passed down to me, you know, and she let me check it out and I thought it was bananas. I thought it was sick as fuck. I thought the girl that was singing was crazy. I thought your cadence was cool. Like I like that low voice and shit, you know, kind of remind me like Gemini's like that too. You guys rap completely different, but you know what I mean? They kind of have that same deep ass cadence, you know what I mean? And the thing that was cool about that was it's trippy for me because that was the first time I heard that shit and I was a little ass kid. There's actually video footage of my mom. I'm recorded singing the fucking song, DA song, which is funny as fuck because now we make music
That's dope.
together. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like maybe one day I'll get that out the woodworks. But yeah, let's get back to you.
And as far as that track, specifically as far as making that
Classic,
song,
classic,
well,
bro.
yeah, that's always been like for everybody, even the homies, like they're always like DEA, you know, singing that
Yeah,
shit.
it's
But
stupid, bro. It's badass, bro.
that song, it was just kind of out of the blue. One of my homies, he was like, he hit me up and he's like, yeah, bro, I got this homegirl, you know, she sings hella dope and you know, she wants to get on a track or whatever. And so I just threw on a beat, came up with these little lyrics and had her sing them to the melody of the song. And besides that, if you listen throughout the song, there's little cuts in throughout the whole verse where it's like singing little harmonies with the beat. And then from there, I just wrote a couple of verses, right? And then knocked them out real quick. And then at the end of the song, try to hype it up like back then, like I was inspired a lot by Tupac, where he would do a lot of talking on his songs, like Hit 'Em Up, for example, where he just goes off. And so just saying random stuff at the end and trying to hype up the song at the end.
For sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
as far as the creation process, like you didn't know back then, like there's no way to know whether that song was gonna be good or not. You know, it's just
Yeah.
you weren't even thinking that. You're just thinking at the time, you're just really in the moment, just trying to make music because it's a hobby. And same thing is spontaneous. The homie came through and knocked it out real quick. And but yeah, from there to this day, like I even go on YouTube and I see that song posted up. And the comments under there, people on there like, oh, still bumping in 2025. And then also another song on that album, Corona. It's funny
Oh, yeah.
because somebody posted a comment on that video talking about during the COVID. Hey, who's still bumping during COVID? Because Corona.
Yeah.
Hey, not that Corona, bro, but you know what I mean? But still. But yeah, that's
Nah,
just a little bit of history on that song.
man, I appreciate that though. That's definitely a good one. I'm gonna keep it going on the projects. We're gonna do I got one more. I got a collaboration one next, and then afterwards we'll go back to one more solo album.
Yeah.
Better late than never, bro. With you and Superior One, how did that like come about? Like I know you guys, you know, are homies and whatnot, but like I don't really know the background story of that. But damn, that shit is badass too. You guys got some jams on that album, bro.
Well, so as far as Salinas rap, I would say Superior One is like synonymous with
Yeah,
Salinas rap
yeah,
because
yeah,
because he's one of the cats that's been doing like just straight up hip hop rap from back in the day, and everybody knows him out there. Period. And
Shout out to
anyways,
Soup One.
yeah, shout out Soup One. So with Soup though, I think so. This is what happened. So there was some sort of like talent show at the high school there, and he came with a couple of his boys, and he didn't go to the same school, but he went out there with his boys, and they were out there, and then after the show, they were all freestyling, kind of like I'm not too familiar with the location on the campus, but they're all freestyling. We're just watching them freestyle, and this was before like me and my friend Joe. I went with my friend Joe, by the way, the same one I started rapping with, but
Yeah,
he was out there freestyling with his friends, and we're like, damn, these fools are dope. And we were just really impressed by that. And same thing, it's like around the time where I wasn't really exposed to that. I didn't know anything about this. And I was like, damn, that's really dope. This was out here just kicking dope raps. And after that, I think I seen him a couple of times, maybe bumped into him a couple times. But eventually I ended up hooking up with him and making a couple of tracks with him. And so we started doing tracks back in like the early 2000s, I would say. And from there, we just kept collaborating. Any project that he was on, I'd either make a beat for him, or I would try to get a verse on there, or vice versa. Any project that I was doing, I'll for sure hit him up to get on there. And so at some point though, I moved out of the Salinas area, and I still kept in touch with him. So he ended up coming up maybe over the course of a couple of weeks, like, or a couple of weekends, I should say. And he would drive up and then knock out a few songs and then head back home and then come back, knock out a few tracks, and then that was it. And then with that alone, after maybe a couple weekends, 3 weekends, we just had all these tracks that
Enough material,
equated to
yeah.
that whole album. And so I'm not sure if it was something that we had planned on in advance. I think it was. I think I was like, hey, we should collab on an album. And it was good timing, you know, because a lot of the things that you'll see throughout my career specifically comes down to the timing of everything. So there's times where I'm not doing anything for various reasons. And there's times where I'm heavily active with music for other reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
So throughout like a 20-25 year period, there's times where music is not a priority, and there's other times where music is the priority, and it ranges everywhere in between. So that was at a time where I had everything lined up, where that's pretty much what I was doing. The only thing though, looking back at that project, is I think a lot of my verses on there were freestyles. So I wish that if I could go back, I would sit there and write a lot of those verses over and spend a little bit more time on my verses personally, because Soup One, he was spinning dope on there, and I think my verses at that time were not up to par. And so that's unfortunate, him being a legendary figure coming out Salinas, for me to had you know, basically do so much freestyles. But throughout my career, that's kind of how I was. At sometimes I would just freestyle, at sometimes I would just write, and at sometimes, like right now, I just punch in, and that's always
Different
changed.
methods, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think we talked about it even with you, how you're kind of, as an artist, constantly evolving and kind of finding your way, so to speak. And so for me, that's kind of what it was. But looking back, I don't get me wrong, like I like that project, and I wouldn't necessarily like, I don't say that project's like, I really like that project, but I think that in retrospect, to have that opportunity, I should have put more effort into like actually perfecting each verse on there. So that way, you know, looking back on, I'm like, I'm not looking back on it like today where I'm like, damn, I wish I would have wrote them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's not just that project though. There's a lot of projects that I have like that. But I think times were different back then, because at some point the music wasn't necessarily about spending so much time to make something, but just to make something and put it out, because
Yeah, yeah.
it seemed like you were winning on just putting stuff out, as opposed to sitting there and trying to be like, oh, let me put out a single this year. You know, back then it was just like,
Yeah.
hey, come out with albums, and come out with that. It was just a different time back then. So
But yeah, there's some good shit on that album, bro.
yeah,
Yeah, I do
for
like
sure.
that. And it is impressive as fuck, because to be honest, like the outside looking in, like I know you respected it so much that you feel that certain way about the freestyles, but I didn't notice that shit at all. I didn't know if those were
Yeah.
freestyles.
Well, the
You were
other
just good
thing,
at being professional about it, you know what I mean?
well, you know, it always helps with the mixing and mastering to get a good mix
Yeah.
on it. But
Yeah, yeah.
the other thing about that is that I had these hooks from a couple of the homies out here that are like R&B singers. I think I had
Gotcha.
my boy Tune and the homie Amir on there. And so they were the ones knocking out the hooks on there. So I think that was the other cool thing, is besides the production on there, I do like the production on there, and Soup coming with the type verses, and then the homies with the hooks
Bringing
on
that
there.
R&B vibe, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the diversity of that kind of adds to the flavor, because as far as like
Gotcha.
looking
Makes
at the
sense, yeah.
album, as far as
It's some
like,
fly shit. It's more flyer, so I know what you're saying with the
yeah,
R&B shit.
yeah, exactly. But as far as looking at it like, you know, as if you're a chef, I would say, you know, having all those different ingredients, I think
Yeah.
that's what really builds the sound of it, as far as it sounding. I would say that album does have a uniqueness compared to other projects, but I think listening to all my projects, that all of them do sound a little bit different. Like maybe it was the time, or
No
maybe it
doubt.
was what I was on or what I wasn't on.
But
You know what I mean?
yeah, what you were going through or not, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um Another weird question just popped into me. What's it called? Fucking the cover. Is that a real cover? Is that a real picture, or was that just like you guys just like put that together with like Photoshop?
So that picture, I think in like 2004, we so in 2004 there was a little veterans hall in Prunedale that I rented
Gotcha.
out, and I invited everybody from the 831 to perform there. So anybody that
Gotcha.
wanted to get on there, I might not have hit everybody because back then, you know, might not have been able, might not have been in touch with everybody. But I
It
try to
wasn't
make
as
it
easy.
where, yeah, correct. And I try to make it where anybody that wanted to get on there, let me know, you get the thing. Anyway, so rented that out and we did a show there. And my boys from San Jose came down too. If you notice, there's a Clout sticker. I don't know if you know, look it up. It's called Clout Magazine. But
Gotcha.
but my boys from San Jose, they put the Clout sticker on there. And so, but anyways, that night a bunch of people came through. It was probably like just straight performances from all the artists from the 831 out there. And that wanted to go. And then Soup and I, we did our set last, which kind of sucked because in retrospect, I wish we would have went on first because we got on so late that a lot of people, they came to just watch whoever they knew or whatnot.
Got
So
you. Gotcha.
a lot of people ended up bouncing because we got on so late, but that was actually a picture from that night. And
Crazy.
yeah, so that's the picture we used for that. And
It's
as
history,
far as the
folks.
title, what's up?
I says history, folks.
Yeah, and then as far as the title of it, Better Late Than Never, it was pretty much just the fact that I've been working with him for so long that that album was overdue, so to speak.
Gotcha.
Like we should have been
Gotcha.
made an album before that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, man. I'm gonna go back to a solo project. This is a personal favorite, and I kind of I kind of made you dive back into it recently. I just kept fucking talking about it. I kept bending his ear about this shit over and over again,
My
but
worst one.
he hates it now. He hate it now, but hey,
No,
I
no, it's
love.
not that.
Yeah, but I love Out of Control, bro. I love if there's anything you want to talk about, you feel comfortable talking about, whatever, whatnot. That yeah, just a little bit insight on that one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so as far as that album in particular, so that's probably I think my third studio album.
Crazy.
And the way that one came about was so I did the West Coast, did the West Coast Volume 1, and the transition from that, I would say this, as far as like the music itself, when I was doing the West Coast original one, as far as the writing process, I was like just unlimited lyrics. Like you give me a pen and a paper and I have a verse in like 5 minutes. Like that's the time I was on back then. And from there to like doing the next project, the West Coast Volume 1, to doing the Out of Control, it shifted to where I was kind of like not so much into the music like as I was focused back then. And as far as being able to write it, I wasn't as focused into it. So a lot of the
Gotcha.
music at that time was just me trying to make something as opposed to like I'm sitting here, I got a dope beat, oh let me write a dope verse, where then I felt like it was more trying to pull stuff out of me and just do it because I put myself on a schedule where all right, I want to drop an album, I want to drop another album. And so once it went from me just creating a song until I got enough songs to make an album to share with people, to then being like I have this deadline that I want to do an album, then my whole process changed. And then the other thing, I don't know if I mentioned to this in our chats, but the other thing that's happened is I went from being on like an old Windows platform, maybe like Windows XP or whatever, to
Gotcha.
like a newer Windows platform. And unfortunately, when I made that transition, all the stuff that I used to create the original West Coast, like I didn't have that anymore. So what ended up happening is I used all new plugins, all new recording process, new microphone, new everything. I went from analog mixer to just going all digital in the box. And
Crazy.
so, and then at the time, I'll read a lot of magazines about like different production and different production, different mixing and mastering. And so I would try different techniques that I wasn't doing before because I had to, because I was basically using different plugins too. Using different, I no longer use the same keyboard. I was using mostly VST synths at that time, VST plugins. So as far as transitioning from the West Coast to that, there's a lot that changed to go from there. as well as my mindset not being as just strictly focused on the music. At that time, I was mostly just out there hanging out with the friends and the homies and just, trying to enjoy life, not so much spending so much time in the studio. But when I did, that's what I was doing. And interesting thing about that too is that's right around the time I got it's a little purple box. It's a emu mofat. I think that emu mofat, something like that. And it was basically, it had only like 12 keys on it with drum
Shit.
sounds and different pianos. And so all the production on there I made on this little thing. It had a sequencer on there. And I would just basically make the beat on there, make a loop, and then I would play it into the computer. And then I would sequence it as it was playing because you can mute different sounds coming in and out on that thing. So the production process was a lot different because it went from being more computer generated music to making stuff on this little kind of like rhythm groove machine going into the computer. And then as far as like the raps themselves, I think that I just remember like I was just a lot of times I was just like really loud on the mic, just
Yeah, you had a
yelling.
different cadence, bro. That's a
Yeah.
trippy album.
Yeah, and so I remember recording it. I was living in this little studio, and I had this family on the same property. And I just remember like they never told me anything like "damn, keep it down" or anything, but I just remember like "damn, they probably think this was crazy out here yelling all night making these songs." But as far as the album itself, the things that I don't like about it is I don't like that I put like a whole intro of just talking and the outro of just talking and an interlude of just whatever. That's one of the things. And then the other things is that I didn't like the cover for it because the cover for it was me standing in front of like a cop car, and I showed that to one of the homies back in the day. I think it was at J Mac's house. One of the homies, John B.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't talked to him since back then, but I just remember him looking at it and he starts busting up laughing in front of everybody when he saw the cover. And I was like, so I want to say embarrassed, but I was like, damn, so I was never really proud of that because it was more like that was the response I got. But the idea behind that cover it was kind of like fuck the police. And if you listen to the album, that's kind of like the message on a couple of the songs, like fuck the police. And so
Yeah, for
back then
sure.
that's what it was because that's what it is. And I will say the other thing too, kind of tying into that portion where people might not understand the logic that I had with that cover, because nowadays I look back and I'm like, okay, well now I see that that was kind of dumb thing to do. But but I also didn't know that things were going to get this big compared to where they were back then. So it was like, I wasn't even
Gotcha.
looking that far into the future.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
other thing is, even going back to my name, the DEA is like when I created that name, I thought it'd be funny because it's like people that knew me knew that I wasn't no DEA. Like I knew what the DEA was, but I thought that people would get the joke like, oh, that's kind of funny because those are my initials. So
Yeah.
so I thought people would get the point and be like, "Oh, but throughout the years, I've had people be like, oh, I'm not messing with the DEA," and I'm like, some people are just really, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, but I don't but I do. So when I made that though, I thought it'd be funny. And so if I knew what I knew then, maybe I'd think of a better name or a different name. But I never wanted to make up a nickname for myself. And I never really had a nickname growing up other than a graffiti name. And I didn't want to use my graffiti name at the time because I was actually doing graffiti. And I didn't want to be like, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm rapping now and I do graffiti, because that's probably an easy way for you to get locked up. So
You can get fat charge, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I wasn't trying to go through any of that. I wasn't trying to do any of that. And like I said, I didn't want to make up some crazy name. And so that's what I went with. And the biggest problem that I've had with that specifically is though recently is that there's other DEA. So I had to add the 40831 to differentiate me from other DEAs. And like if you Google DEA 40831, like you could actually find me, as opposed
Yeah.
to for the past 20 years, you go and search for DEA and you're going to go to the DEA or whatnot. But I'll tell you this though, that, that when I was living in the Bay and I met Richie Rich, when he found out that that was my rap name, he was even looking at me sideways.
That's funny. That's
Yeah, that's
because
hecka funny.
because what's crazy about that is there is another DEA. I know of him. He ain't the best of rappers, but he's pretty fucking well known. He's from like Sacramento. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, he's like he's from like Garden Block, and he like raps with like funk beta beats with like Brother Lynch and shit like that, and X-Rated. He used to back in the day, but that was the only other DEA I ever know of and shit like that.
Well, the one that I did know of once the internet came out was Dead End Alliance. You
Oh,
ever hear
that
them?
shit. Yeah, hell yeah, that's just that's
Yeah.
Fat Pat, bro,
Yeah. And so
and Big
and
Hawk, DJ Screw.
yeah, and so that was the only other one that I knew of at the time. And but that's after I already put my stuff out. So I'm like, obviously I'm not imitating, I'm not, trying to bite off them. And
Yeah,
but
for
they're
sure.
dope. They're like a dope group. So but as far as people looking at it like, oh, that's like looking at that funny, like, oh, DEA, it's like I get it because some people really, they're really about that life, and they ain't messing with no DEA. You feel me?
That's funny, bro. I
Period.
never heard anybody trip off of that before. That's crazy.
Yeah, not nothing crazy, but I think Richie Rich, Richie Rich, the
Oh
from
hell yeah,
Oakland,
bro. Oh
yeah,
hell yeah.
OG,
Fuck yeah, he's one of the best rappers ever, bro. Shit, he basically, a lot of people don't even know. He basically like fuck. We got on a side tangent here about Richie Rich. Shout out to Richie Rich, but he him and Spice, they kind of like helped Tupac rap a little bit.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like helped him with his writing and shit. And of course, the Humpty Hump master himself. You know what I mean, from Digital Underground. But yeah, for sure, Tupac came out and said that Richie Rich helped him like perfect his craft a little bit, like how to teach. He taught him how to make a lot of hit songs quickly. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
He already, it's Tupac. He already knows how to fucking rap, but you know what I mean? But yeah, Richie Rich, I see him swinging around here sometimes, bro. He
yeah,
has he's got a gold cougar. He's got a
yeah,
gold cougar. Yeah, you'll see him like riding around. But that goes to my next question, bro. If you can shed a little bit of light, you know what I mean? Not necessarily, you don't have to say no stories or nothing, but like rappers you encountered, maybe even growing up, but also legends, that you've encountered. Like, Richie Rich is a super legend, you know what I mean? And like, other cats, you know what I mean? Anybody you want to not necessarily shout out, but like, you were kind of tripping out that you got the chance to meet them, or, you know what I mean? You kind of just rub shoulders with them and shit like that.
yeah, for sure. So I think living out in the Bay, you definitely run into people just normally. So there's a few people that are memorable. I think I told you about one of them was the Jacka. When I met the Jacka, he was doing a show out there in Monterey, and with my boy Oompa, he throws shows out there. And so, anyways, he was coming out there to do a show at the club. And before the show, they did a little signing at one of the little record stores out there. And after that, we all went to, I think it was Applebee's or Chili's, one or the other, and Salinas. And it's a funny story because I told you, but this always stuck
Yeah.
with me is that when we ordered our meal before, this was before we went to the club anyways, we all ordered food, and the Jacka specifically, he ordered whatever his meal, but he also ordered a dessert, like a big ass cake or some shit.
Big
And
ass cake, huh?
yeah, like a big ass, like brought out a big ass cake, and he told him to bring it before his dinner. And anyways, they brought out his cake, and he sat there, ate the whole cake, and then they brought out his food. He didn't even touch his food. I was out there, I think I got like a burger or something. I was just eating like normal or whatever, but it was cool, And another funny thing about that is one time I told my manager that was a fan of the Jacka that I went out to dinner with him, like, like this. I told him what happened, just like I'm telling you. And he's like, "You mean you were at the restaurant and he was there?" And I was like,
You're like,
dude, no, like, are you like crazy? Anyways,
yeah,
so, but after that, then we went to the club. This is when Tear Gas came out. So that's when,
classic.
he was always dope. But when that album came out, that one was hitting back then. And it
There's
was,
the next level. They had Devin the
yeah,
Dude on it. Had hella people, bro.
yeah. And that was like, it was popping. And so he went out there and did his set or whatever. And then after that, we all went back to Oompa's pad for the after party. And he actually followed me back. He followed me back to there. So like I was driving my car, and then he was with, I think, like his manager, maybe I forget who. I think, Selsky was there
Selsky,
too.
yeah, Selsky.
Yeah. And so they all followed me back there. And then the whole night he was just chilling hella late till hella late, just rolling up all night though, just chilling like out there off at the homies pad, just chilling. And funny story about Selsky that night is I was tipsy at the club, and Selsky was right there, and I don't know. I was tipsy. Anyways, I was going like this, like, hey, hey, like, cause like I guess there was some girl that was like looking at him. And then
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, hey, hey, there you go. And I
yeah,
just
yeah,
remember
yeah.
him like looking at me like I'm crazy, like looking at me all sideways. And I think because I kept like kind of like joking with
Nudging
him,
him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like haha, and he was looking at him like, who the hell is this guy, you know? And I just remember because he's a pretty big dude, and he's just chilling, and I just kept like joking with him like as if I like really knew him, but like I said, I was tipsy, but yeah, I met him, and then a couple other cats, like I met San Quinn in San Jose. They were out there doing a show. Met him, and after the show, he went back to these dudes' studio. I went with them, and then he knocked out a verse for them. And there was apparently some issue with the payment at the end, but you know that's for like, you know, I'll tell you off the rip, you know what I mean. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
and then I met Richie Rich one night. We were out there at the, you know, they have this little clubs. I think it's like the Red Rhino or something like that out there in Antioch, Brentwood out there. And
Gotcha.
he was out there just chilling. And after, he was cool with my roommate. So he invited us over to his pad after that. And then we're just out there just sipping tequila, and he's rolling up, and we're just chilling, having a good time. And yeah, one thing that I'll say about him that I really respect is, you know, a big fan of Tupac, is that he has a plaque of a contract that Tupac wrote for him, so that way he gets paid off of the music that he has with Tupac. Something
That's
along those
sick, bro.
lines.
That's
Yeah, and
sick. Yeah.
he was telling me that without that, that basically that Death Row Records wouldn't have like basically paid him. Something like that. You know, I could be
Crazy.
butchering that
But he
because I
looked
was
after him
drinking.
though. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. But the way that I remember was something along the lines like that he basically like was looking out for him in that
Crazy.
regard. So
Crazy.
and then from there, I mean, I went to a bunch of different shows and then artists backstage, but you know, really, uh I'm trying to think. Did I tell you anybody else besides that or not?
Shit.
Well, I mean, Big Tone.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool as fuck too.
Yeah, like Big Tone when I moved out to Antioch.
From that Woody camp.
Yeah, exactly. When I moved out there, this was like when he was starting to like blow up. And so one day he just posts on Facebook, he's like, "Yo, I'm doing verses for the low," something along those lines. And I just hit him up, and then he's like, "Yeah, cool." We agreed on a price. I think like I forgot how much it was back then, but we agreed on a price. And then I sent him a beat. He that I think had the hook already, and then within a day or two, he had his stuff written, wrote through, and recorded it. And back then, I was trying to document everything recorded. I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, let me film this for a documentary," and he was like, "No, we don't do that." And I was like, I was a little sad. I was like, "Come on, bro." But yeah, so he didn't let me record it. But from there, though, I actually met, you know, his homies Chingasso, Fresh, and Lace. And so I was able to do more production, and then got a couple of other beats with him. So that's another cat that I worked with. And outside of that, I mean, I've had placements like with my production. Like I got a track where MC Magic, where I got
Crazy.
a verse and a hook, but I don't think that song is ever gonna come out. We talked about that. That one's gonna
Yep.
be shelved for life. But
Yep.
MC Magic track is all ready to go, but you know, I guess the financial situation with that doesn't allow for that song to come out. But I think I showed it to you, right?
Yeah, yeah, I checked it out.
Hey, so if that song leaks though, no, I'm just like, hey, so if that
Yeah,
song gets leaked, hey,
yeah.
then that's another story. But that, and then Gold Toes, he made an album called The Gold Club.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
yeah, and I made a beat on there with him and Burner got on that track too.
You gonna have to send me that. I gotta check that one out.
Yeah, so I got that, and that's it. You know, everyone from the 831, a lot of the people that we know, you know, that we've been talking about since back in the days, you know. So that's pretty much the majority of them, though.
Yeah, that's a weird thing too. Well, not weird, but you know, hold up real quick though. We gotta say, rest in peace to the Jack. Shout out to Quinn. Fucking who else do we say? Shout out to
Lace,
Tone. Shout out to Richie Rich. You know what I
R.I.P.
mean?
Lace, R.I.P. Jacker,
R.I.P. Laced. R.I.P. Jacker. Shout out to, you know, Chingasso. But shit, now I don't even remember what we gonna get on now. Where we at? Where
just
we at?
just I don't know.
That's it.
Hey, there's so many mysteries of life there.
Exactly. Exactly. Nah, but shit. You know what? I'm gonna get into a weird one now. What would you say? I think you kind of said a little something earlier upon this, but do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music you would like to share? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right now would be gaming. Like I like to play Destiny 2 would be one of the games that I play regularly. And
Got you, got you.
but I would say over the years they've kind of butchered that game. It went from something that I was like never knew I was going to be a fan of. One day it was on sale at Humble Bundle for like $7. I bought it and got really into it. And over the years they just became I don't know if they're just greedy or whatnot, but it turned in where
Yeah,
they just
it's more
went
about money. Yeah,
yeah, they just want heck of money. And instead of it being groundbreaking, I feel like all the stuff that I like to do on there, they took it out of the game and then repackaged kind of the same stuff and then kind of copy and paste new content. So it's like when they come out with something new, instead of like something groundbreaking, it's like, hey, we're just going to give you back something that we already sold you, but then took it away. And now we're going to sell it to you again. Or they do something where it's like we're going to basically come out with the same content, but copy and paste and just call it something else and maybe like a different enemy. But
got you.
every 3 months, like we're going to charge you for this and it's just going to be the same thing, but different. And so that's kind of a little annoying. As far as like the other hobbies that I had, like skating and graffiti, those things, skateboarding, I stopped doing that a long time ago because, if I don't know, have you ever skateboarded, for example?
Well, I grew up in the air, you know what I mean? Like I love skateboarding, you know what I mean? Fucking Rodney Mullen, Tony Hawk and all that, but I just ain't good at it, bro. You know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck it is. I wish I was, bro.
Yeah.
That's like one of my things that I wish, like, I know like people wish they could play guitar. I wish I could skateboard, bro. That'd be
Tony
sick.
Hawk. Hey,
Hell
be
yeah.
Tony Hawking it.
Rodney Mullen, bro. Rodney Mullen was my shit, bro. He was crazy, bro.
Yeah,
Shit was
well,
unreal he would do.
yeah. But as far as the skating, I stopped doing that because basically got too
Fuck
many
yourself up, huh?
injuries. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at some point, once you get older and you start working, it's like you don't have the time. But I will say that there is this dude on Instagram, Sam Wise, a car salesman from Honda. And that dude, he literally took some time off work to skateboard. And I was just watching him recently and I've seen him and I think he posted his age. I think he's like 40 or 41 or something. And so he kind of skated throughout his life, but always kind of stuck with it and then was working and then kind of cut back away from work to pursue skateboarding more. And I've watched him over like the past year go from where, oh, well, that's cool for a 40-year-old, you know, to, oh, this was actually pretty dope, where he's actually
Yeah.
getting some air and, like kick flipping and 360 flip, frontside flip. So, but anyways, me personally though, I stopped doing it because too many injuries and once I got more into graffiti, like graffiti for me was more fun than anything because like that's just like you're going on some straight up missions. Like I don't know if you know anything about it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I used to graffiti a
anybody
little bit, yeah.
yeah, anybody who's ever done it, like it's very I don't know if it's the adrenaline, I don't know if it's just the thrill of because painting with spray paint's fun by itself. So like if you had a wall that you could just paint spray paint on, it's just fun to do, period. Like, especially like graffiti specifically. And so, but that with the missions that you're going on and the places that you would go, it just was so many adventures in one. Like, I remember when I moved out from San Jose to the 831, it was like pretty much from Prunedale to Salinas to Watsonville to Santa Cruz Aptos. There was like some train tracks, and that train track, like, out there, like you could go all the way down that train track. There was bridges, just all kinds of stuff. And you meet so many people doing that too. And it's kind of one of those things that just like skateboarding, it's you develop friendships with people because you're all in the same, just like anything. Like even if you're into drinking or even smoking cigarettes, like you end up being friends with people just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you guys do the same thing. That's how it was with skating. That's how it was with painting. And, I don't keep in touch too much with the graffiti homies, but all my skater homies still have them all on my Instagram. I never hang out with them because we're in different locations. But as far as like keeping in touch, like those are like my homies since back in
Were
the
you
days.
dope, bro?
At,
At skating?
at skating, I would say that I have a little clip on my Instagram.
Shit, okay. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, I would say for me, I wasn't very consistent as far as like being able to do stuff like all the time. But as far as like my favorite trick was a frontside kick flip, and then also a
Yeah, it's
half
rough.
cab hill
It's
flip.
hard to do.
And the thing though that I would say that I like most about my skills as a skater was I always had a nice pop to it. So like one of the things that you notice is style with skateboarding. So me, I always try to make sure like when I did a trick that my board would like pop off the ground and get some air. And so one of the biggest things that I see that I hate about like anything would be like if you look at like Lil Wayne, for example, like
Mm.
he has clips of him skating. And it's not to be like, oh, I'm doper than Lil Wayne or to say nothing bad, but when I look at it, I mean, he's pretty dope for what it is. But the last time I saw it was like there's no pop to it. So it's like if he's
Got you.
going off something, it's like his tail's not hitting the ground and making the board pop up in the air. It's just kind of like going off like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
when I
yeah.
say that's like not very good style. So, but me specifically, you can see it on there. It's like when I'm doing a trick, it's like that thing is going off the ground. So it
Crazy.
wasn't just like some little rinky dink. But starting out, I mean, I used to suck like when I first started, but over the years got a little bit better. But I would say on that same clip, I have it where I sprained my ankle. I was skating this car dealership in San Jose where they had this little rail, and when I was coming off, my ankle rolled off the board like that, and I
Oof.
felt it pop, and it got swollen instantly. So that's one. And then also I was skating at the high school out there. It's called Gunderson, and they had a rail that basically looked like a loop like that. And so I was going down, and my foot got caught in the loop, and then this part right here it got right on my like upper leg, and there's like an indentation, I believe, till this day from hitting that thing so hard. And
Damn.
my buddy Zeke, he was filming it back then, and I don't know if he has that footage. I wish he did because I got so tore up, and he's like, "You okay, bro?" And I was just like, and I was pulling like the Peter Griffin, like, hey, on the
I just
floor
need to
like that.
breathe, bro. I just need to breathe.
Yeah, bro. Like, so that's why I got out of that, and then but nowadays, yeah, it's just basically like I like making beats. Rapping, I like rapping too, but I would say like for you, I'll say it seems like my perception of you as a rapper is like easier for you to write than for me to create. I feel like you could just sit there and make like album upon album upon album. Where me, I feel like even on this last project, I was surprised that I was able to keep coming up with fresh ideas and not running out of ideas where even like we've talked about doing new stuff, but I'm like, bro, let me take a little bit of a creative break because that
Yeah.
way I could come fresh again and not because I don't like back in the days when I was making a lot of stuff, it's like saying the same stuff and saying stuff same stuff everybody says and
Yeah, 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 for
just
sure.
just
Hell yeah.
doing it to do it. And it's like I don't want to do that, you know. I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
want to make it
100%.
more a little bit more better, you know, more escalated, elevated.
Yeah, especially with this new album that me and DEA made, Fragments.
Yep.
It's gonna, it's not only the next album is gonna be basically Life's Cheap too. So the only thing about it that people gotta understand is it's gotta be better than Fragments, which that album was fucking dynamite, and it's gotta live up to the classic, the classic Life's Cheap album that has everybody just going off, you know what I mean? While
Yeah.
everybody was still rapping. So I totally understand that, bro. I totally understand that.
Yeah, but it's gonna be different too because like you were talking about how our styles evolve from being more
Mhm.
like comfortable rapping street to more lyrical and
Yeah,
rapping more
yeah,
about different topics. But I'll say the main difference from the fragments and the life's cheap or life's cheaper part two, right? Is that those ones are gonna have the collabs because when we started the fragments, we talked about maybe collabing with other people and I wasn't opposed to it, but the problem that I have is with that is similar to the problem that I'm telling you right now, as far as like getting the podcast, is that to schedule with everybody else that's doing it, everybody's just doing this in their free time and their hobbies. Everybody's got schedules and got stuff they need to do. So I didn't want to delay this thing. And I know that had we collaborated with more people on that album, it would have taken that much longer to have completed it,
yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I didn't want this to turn into a project that we couldn't come to a conclusion
No doubt.
based on stuff that was outside of our
Control.
hands,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted, and I think that's a good word for that. And then the other thing would be like the mixing of it. The mixing of it, like I was telling you with the vocals, it was a challenge to get our vocals to match because we're using different mics, different location. And so it was a challenge to get that, and to get another artist on there and have to do the same thing with their vocals would have taken that much longer to do the mixing,
Yeah.
which I'm not opposed to, but that's going to be the difference on the next project. And I would say the trade-off is the album will be more diverse because we'll have more diversity in the production and the artists, but maybe at the trade-off of the consistency of the project because a lot of stuff will be out of our control. And then as
Yes.
far as the creation process might be a little bit delayed because we're on other people's time there. And I know like
No doubt.
with you, like when I send you a beat, it's like that thing's coming back pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like a year later where I'm like, all right, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. I try for real. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for real.
Nah, but I try to keep it. Yeah, I got that from that's what I got from Nice, bro. And you too. I kind of got it from working with both you guys is that I kind of built a little thing where like, if somebody sends me a beat, I got to give it back to them like by the next 2 days or some shit. Like, what I mean? That's
Yeah.
just what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It keeps the professionalism too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing though that that I noticed too is like some people they just are hard to get on a track, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If not impossible. And then some
Yeah.
people, which I respect too, because the reality is that I'd rather have somebody like where I send them a track and they're not feeling it and they don't get on it to like sending them a track and they don't feel it and just spit whatever on it, even though if they're not feeling
Yeah.
it. You
For
know what I
sure,
mean?
man. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do
There'd be a
respect
whole bunch
that.
of bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And I was telling you, one idea I had is to just get more songs finished to a point where they're finished where you could add a verse on it and send somebody like all the tracks. And that way they could go through and pick whatever their favorite one is. And then, oh yeah, I like this song. Let me add a verse on that one, as opposed to sending them one track at a time and then it being
Gotcha.
hit or miss, right? So
Gotcha.
that's one of the ideas I had with that though.
Yeah. So, man, we basically went all the way around, man. We ran into fragments accidentally at the end there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I do have, I do have one question for you still, you know what I mean? And, we might run into some other stuff before we end this, but give me a top 5 producers and top 5 MCs, DEAs.
So as
Top
far
5.
as producers, I couldn't even really tell you, bro, because I'm not really up on that. I could tell you one that only because it kind of goes in with what I do as far as making the beats is they make sounds and stuff for producers. So there's a couple of people actually in that regard, not from like the consumer perspective, but from the producer perspective that makes either sound packs or loops or instruments for artists. So one of them is DJ Idea.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Never heard of him.
So DJ Idea just got kind of like that mob, old school Master P, like Beats by the Pound, like but with a mobbish tone to it. And so that's one of them. And then another one from kind of piggybacking off this is there's this dude named Kvi, KXVI, and that dude he makes these sample packs where just random loops and and I would say some of it to me is a little bit weird because it sounds like as if he's singing and then trying to make it sound like a soul sample, which I'm like, putting effects and trying to make it sound vintage where I'm like that's not kind of what I like, but like kind of like when he has these pitched vocals and those types of samples on it, that's the kind of stuff I like. And
yeah, that's dope, man.
Yeah, and then as far as anybody else that I honestly don't know too many other like producers that I'm like, oh, like this is dope because I don't listen to too much music.
It's also kind of hard. You started early as shit, so it's kind of like even the dudes that are dope, they're kind of younger than you too. So that's I kind of could understand that.
Well, there is another dude too. His name's Ilfinite, with 3 eyes. You heard of that dude?
Yeah.
I could tell you someone that you actually might have heard of. Cardo got beats.
Yeah. I know you're talking about. Yep.
Larry June. I think he
Larry
produces
June,
for Larry June. I think DJ Idea too. So I would say like any of that style, like those types of beats, like that's the kind of stuff that I like as a producer, where it has those kind of like 808 drums, not necessarily the bassy, but like the synth 808 style claps, snares, and hi-hats. But
Gotcha.
also, I like that sort of bass where it's kind of like it's not necessarily a moog, it's more a odyssey. It's an instrument called the Odyssey, where it's a synth bass where it's low enough, but it has kind of that womp 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 sound to it.
Gotcha. A little bit more of like the mob smack sound.
Exactly. And so
Gotcha. Gotcha.
that so any beats like that have those 808 types. And then besides that, anything that has a nice either guitar sample or nice vocal samples that are pitched or any weird like vocal samples like that, I'm a big fan of. And as far as like favorite beats, just to give you an idea of like what like one of my favorite beats of all time would be the Song for You by Mac Dre.
Shit. So that Rob Lowe.
I don't know who did that, but
Yes.
that beat and that sample, like something like that. And then there's a couple of
That's that's the Mob Figures producer, Rob Lowe.
yeah, but that beat right there, that like something like that for
Insane,
sure.
bro. Insane.
And then another beat of all time, not nothing specific, but some of the beats off of like Nicotina and Equito, like their joint
That shit is
projects.
crazy.
Like
Yeah,
any
that shit is
ones that have
crazy.
like kind of like there's one song that he has like with a vocal sample on it, like a female vocal sample, but stuff like that that I'm really interested in. And as far as artists, top artists all time, was that what it was?
Top 5 MCs. You
Top
can do
five?
3 if you want. You know what I
Nah, I
mean? You can do
mean,
3.
nah, it's for me, it's pretty much not necessarily as an MC lyrically, but just artists. I would say for me, it's been Tupac, Outkast, Nas, Tribe Called Quest, and then maybe The Roots would be another one. Honorable mentions: E40, Doobie. So that stuff
Doobies.
I grew up listening to.
Monster.
Yeah, and E40, Doobie. There's a lot. Like Mac Dre, I'm a fan of. Nicotine, I'm a fan. But as far as top 5, like I have to go with those formative ones because if you listen to any of those ones that I mentioned, like Tupac for me, like as far as
Mhm.
like overall production, lyrics and beats and content just in general, like to me is like one of the greatest and I don't think that will ever change. And next Outcast was kind of very impressionable. Their I think it was Atlians, that album. Like growing up, that was just like one of the popular joints. And Tribe Called Quest nowadays,
I fucking
not
love that shit, bro.
yeah, well, that nowadays not so much because of the mixing to it is more like boom bap and the volume's a little bit lower, doesn't slap as hard as like some of the other stuff. But back then when that came out was one of my favorites. And then one of my all-time favorites just in general, Roots. The Roots.
Yeah, the
Just
Roots crazy.
because just because overall, just like I don't even know who's on there. Like I don't even know the members of the Roots, but the production, the beats, the style, the flows, everything, it just has a certain vibe to it where it's very I don't know jazzy, but it's very like musical.
It kind of is. Yeah, yeah. I know
And
what you're saying.
compared to everything, it's just at like musically, it's just at a higher
Another
level.
level for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then I think the last person, Nas, it was written just that album back in the days, man. I used to slap that like Nas for
yeah,
real
Nas.
back then.
Nas one of the greatest ever, bro. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
crazy,
So,
man. Yeah. So I don't know, man. You want to wrap it up or what?
well, I don't. I feel
Are you,
like
you got something else you want to say?
I mean, the only other thing is that in your interview we talked about growing up and how times were different back then.
Gotcha.
And so I think that's kind of what I did want to mention because I didn't really go too far into that starting out is when I was living in San Jose, like, bro, I don't even remember like being at home. Like a lot of times I would just be sleeping on my friend's couch or floor or whatever. Like I was never at home. One of my best friends, his name's Zeke. Shout out to my boy Zeke. His family, bro, like they always had a big bag of mozzarella cheese, some jalapenos, and some tortillas. And I could tell you that like got me through my high school year, bro. Like just quesadillas, bro. Had a little skillet right there. And every day after school, go to his house and then go out skating and then come back there. And that's all I remember is just I was never home from like third grade all the way throughout high school. But that's just kind of wanted to touch back a little bit about that, just because I think that has a lot to do with kind of like how I've always been kind of independent, just doing stuff on my own and kind of figuring out life as we go by. So yeah. But as far as the interview, man, just want to give a shout out to all the skater homies from San Jose, all my graffiti homies. You know, I know one of my graffiti homies from Salinas, Prunedale, Yesum, he passed away. So R.I.P. Yesum.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P. the Jacka, R.I.P. Lace.
Rest in peace, Jack.
But yeah,
Rest
shout out.
in peace, Laced.
Shout out to everyone from throughout the years doing music, graffiti, skateboarding, everybody that's doing it. And, you know, just want to give a little bit of encouragement to the future generation. You know, whatever you want to do, just do it. Don't worry about it. Just do it, and do it today. If you suck today, you'll find out that much quicker how to be better at it, or that maybe you don't want to do it. You know, even like
you gotta
this
fail
podcast.
first, man.
Yeah, even like this podcast, I was telling you, like, obviously starting now, it's not perfect. It's not like the ideal. We don't have no big budget where it's like, but I was like, dude, we might do this and be like, well, we don't even like it. So, you know what I mean?
Got you.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, go do it. And then you'll find out if you like it. If you like it, it's just like any other hobby. You invest time and you get better at it over time. And then that's pretty much what I would say as far as encouragement for the future. Just go out and do whatever you want to do. And if anybody tells you don't want to do it, or you shouldn't do it, or you suck or whatever, then don't listen to them. Because at the end of the day, everybody sucks until they don't, right?
It's just a perspective, yeah.
Well, you know, you get better at stuff. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So that's pretty much it. And shout out to you. You know, I know you said that at one point, you know, you were a fan of the music, but I tell you, I'm a big fan of you at this point. So
Same, bro.
I know sometimes you say too, like, yeah, like I look at the opportunity, but to me, I think at times where like I've given up on music, actually you were an opportunity for me to get back out there and do it too. So, you know, if it wasn't for you, wouldn't it be right here on this podcast right now? Wouldn't it have the Fragments album, which the Fragments album gone over people's heads, which I was hoping it wouldn't, but I know how it is today is like you got to be on the social media. So hopefully with this, we could get the platform where people will get that. And then by the time that, check out the music, because one thing that I know in my heart about Fragments specifically is that the music is so dope that once you listen to it, you add it to your playlist, it's going to be like on repeat, and or at least it's going to be part of like, oh, let me go through and play this. And there's something on there for everybody. And I could say, I know any artist could say this about any project that they've done, but I'll be honest, out of all the projects that I've done, like this is a project that I didn't take any shortcuts, that I don't look back and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have did this, or my head wasn't in the right space, or I wasn't focused. Like there was nothing about that. It was like everything that we could have did to within our power to make this the best we could is what we did on here. Period.
100%. 100%, bro. And same goes to you, bro. You know what I mean? Like I said, bro, like I grew up on your shit. I stay slapping your shit. You know what I mean? It's an honor, bro. You know what I mean? It was cool to do the interview too, man.
Hey, but it do be slapping though, that old school, huh? Hey, that old school West Coast, huh?
It's sick as fuck, bro. Yeah.
Hey, but there's a couple songs on there where I'm like, but the ones that hit though are the ones that hit though. Right?
Yeah. There's some classics, bro. That shit's dope as fuck.
All right, well, I think I'm good with that, bro. You want to do a wrap it up with another icebreaker?
You want to wrap it up with another icebreaker?
Yeah, you got the list.
Shit. Let's see. Yeah. All right, I got you. All right, let's see. If you were left on a deserted island with either your worst enemy or no one, which would you choose and why?
I would choose my worst enemy because I would feel bad having to eat my best friend.
Hey, real shit, huh? Eventually you're gonna have to get cannibal on that motherfucker, bro.
Hey, if it comes
someone's
to
gonna kill somebody, bro, for food.
If it comes to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to eat your best friend, but your worst enemy? Barbecue. Hey, it's barbecue time. You know,
barbecue time, bro.
Maybe not day one.
Sauce on there.
Maybe not day one, but what is it? How many days can you survive without eating? A few weeks, right? So maybe week 2, week 3. Hey, depending on if there's other food. If there's other food, then that kind of like, then at that point you might be like, oh, I should have picked my homie, right? So if there was like an abundance of food, I would pick the opposite, because then it's like, you know, you're not miserable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having to think like, how do I take this fool out every day? Right? But then you're lonely too. So that's it. All right. I'll say once you think it through a little bit, that's a tough one. So maybe it depends. If there's an abundance of food and it's a cool little island, and you could spend the rest of your days, because you're gonna want some sort of companionship, so you don't go crazy like Tom Hanks and start
Yeah,
drawing a
yeah.
picture on a
Be castawaying it,
volleyball.
bro.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. But on the flip side, if it's one of those starving situations where there's no food and it's like, then I think that it's gonna be your enemy. So depends.
It all depends, man.
It all depends.
All right, man. Well, this is Talkz Cheap Podcast, episode 2.
Episode 2.
Shout out to DEA. You know what I mean? We hoping we have a whole bunch of more interviews for you guys. We tapping in right now. If you guys want to contact us, let us know.
Shout out everybody. Thanks again and peace.